are in listen-only mode.
Hello, this is Terry with Fortress Grand Corporation, and today we're going to talk about Time Limit Manager 5, Powerful Usage Management for Computers. Today we'll look at the features of TLM, we'll look at how TLM works, as well as getting started with TLM, where we'll go through some of the configuration options and how you can manage TLM and set up TLM on your network. Before we go any further, I have a couple of quick questions. The first is about what version of Time Limit Manager you're using, if any. If you can select one of the options, it'll record your vote. Okay, and the next question is about the number of computers that you manage. And finally, the last question is about your migration plans for Windows 8. Great. Well, with Time Limit Manager 5, it is designed to enforce time limits on your computers. It's designed to promote the fair use of computers so that one patron isn't hogging a computer or using it extensively and not letting other patrons have access to the computer. The way it does this is through two options. One is to require a PIN, where the patron gets a PIN from a staff member and then they can log in and use the computer. You can optionally not require a PIN, where a patron can just walk up and press the I agree button and start a session. We'll take a look at how all of that works in just a couple of minutes. You can also set up a usage policy, and this is displayed to the user before they begin their session, so you can put whatever usage policy you have into Time Limit Manager and it will display that to the user, and by clicking I agree on the TLM available screen, they acknowledge the terms of your usage policy. And again, this is completely customizable. You can take whatever usage policy you want and import it into Time Limit Manager, and you can even have different usage policies on different computers. So if you wanted to have one for maybe children's computers and a different one for adult computers and a different one for a Word document editing station, you could do that as well. TLM also compiles usage reports that shows the TLM sessions that have happened on the computers. You can see individual session history, or you can also see cumulative usage reports, so you can see in total how much time the computers are being used, how much time they're available, and if you have a session that's maybe an hour long, how much of that time is being used by the individual users. And you can also filter these reports by date or by a pool or group of computers or by the individual computer itself. There is monitoring that's built into TLM5 that allows you to view the screen of the remote computer. It isn't a streaming thing. It basically takes a screen capture, still image, and allows you to see what's on the remote computer. And then this also allows you to send warning messages. If somebody is maybe violating your usage policy, you can send a message letting them know that they're not using the computer the way it was meant to be used, and that if they continue, their session will end. And you also have the ability to terminate the user session if the behavior continues. So you have the ability to monitor and also end the session for the user. TLM is easy for the users. As I said, if you're using the PIN model, all they need to do is put in a 6-digit PIN that's generated from inside of TLM and click the I agree button. And optionally, if you're using the ticket list model, they can just press the I agree button and start a session. After that, they use the computer normally. You can set up auto logon with TLM so that as soon as the session starts, TLM will automatically log in the computer, so the user just gets taken right to their desktop. TLM is also easy for the staff to use. You can print tickets from the TLM interface. They can view current sessions. They can view the remote screens all from an administrative console, and there can be multiple administrative consoles installed on the network. There isn't just a single console. So the nice part about that is that you could also have maybe the administrative console on your computer as well, and then have some responsibilities delegated out to other staff members on different computers. The installation is pretty simple for TLM. There's 3 components. There's the TLM server, which kind of holds all the information. There's the administrative console, which is where you manage the TLM server, and then there's the TLM clients that look to the server to validate the pins and find out how long sessions should be and usage policies and things like that. And we'll take a look at that in just a second. TLM 5 supports Windows 8.1, Windows 8, and Windows 7, so you can install it on any of those, and you could have a mix, maybe some Windows 8, some Windows 7 clients all talking to the same TLM server, and that's not an issue. And as with all of our software, we have free technical support through either toll-free phone, email, or chat, and while you're trying out TLM or after you've purchased it, you can use any of those methods to get any of your questions answered. So this is a diagram kind of showing a little bit about how TLM works and the different components. In the center of the diagram, you have the TLM server, and again, that's the kind of main component of TLM, which stores your parameters for a session, about how long it should be, what the usage policy is, and some other things. It also stores the pins, and it also gathers the data for the reports. Above the TLM server, you have the administrative console, and that's where you as the administrator would be able to manage TLM and set up different sessions and things like that. And then I have 2 pools that are listed to the left and to the right of the TLM server, and you don't have to have any pools created. By default, there is a single default pool, but pools provide some capabilities to group computers together so that if you want to, you can allow people to use the computer for longer than their session length as long as other computers in that pool are available. And so an example of that would be is that if I was in pool A and there's 4 computers there, and I sit down at one of the computers and there's still 3 other computers available, you can configure TLM to let me keep using the computer even after my half-hour session is up, as long as the other 3 computers are available. And then what would happen is when the other 3 computers become taken by other patrons, then I would have my session end, so I could use it for extra time as long as other computers are available. And pools let you do that. Pools also let you have different session lengths and different usage policies for each pool, and so they allow you to kind of segment the computers and have different behaviors on each member of the pool. This is a screenshot of the available screen when it's in ticket list mode. As you can see at the bottom, there's just a big I agree button. So as a patron, I would walk up and see that the screen is available, and I just press the agree button and I can start using the computer. If I'm using the PIN access, then you can see at the bottom there's a spot where I would enter my PIN. This PIN is something that I would get from a staff member, and I would enter in that PIN and hit the I agree button to start my session. Once I'm inside of session and TLM is started, then I use the computer as I normally would. The only difference is that at the top of the screen I have a little countdown clock that shows how much time is remaining in the session, and that will stay on top of any other windows that the user might start. So if they started Word or Internet Explorer, that time will stay in front so that they know how much time they have left. And then when there is 3 minutes remaining in my session, I'll receive a message saying that my session is about to end and I should wrap up what I'm doing. And then at 1 minute, I'll receive another message, a balloon that pops up and says that my session is nearly over and I'll be forcibly logged off if I don't close out and end my session. The main component of TLM and kind of the main configuration part of how a session works is a schedule entry, and schedule entries apply to computers or pools or all computers, and they can be valid at any given time or just specific times. So if I wanted to have a different schedule from 8 to 4:30, and then have a different schedule from 4:30 to closing time, I could do that and maybe have longer times during the day and shorter times in the evening when maybe it's busier. I can also have different schedule entries for different days of the week, so if I need the computer to be available longer on certain days, or if I want to do something different on Saturday and Sunday, I can set up a schedule entry so that the schedules and the amount of time that I get to use the computer is different on the weekends than it is during the weekday. Once I've said where the schedule entry applies and the times that it's valid, then I set up the session properties, and this would be things like whether or not the computer is available or unavailable. I can actually use TLM to make a computer unavailable, so maybe if it's getting close to closing time, I don't want people to start a session, I could make the computer unavailable maybe 15 minutes before closing time. I also set the session length, whether or not you want to allow that extra time, the usage policy, and then there's also an option to have minimum time between sessions so that if you're using primarily the ticketless access model, you may want to have a minimum of 30 seconds or a minute in between sessions so that the user can't just click the I agree button and start another session again. You can also set up idle properties inside of a schedule entry where it will actually look for idle time, and if the computer is idle for a period of time, it will automatically log off the machine, which will end the TLM session. And so that's something that you can optionally configure as well. So to get started with TLM, what you do is go to our website and you can download TLM. There's a free 30-day demo. And once you've done that, you can install it on Windows 7, 8, or Windows 8.1. And then you can go into the administrative console and configure it. Now, there are a couple of options we'll talk about during the installation. This is what the custom setup screen would look like when you are running the TLM installation. It's designed to install the TLM client by default because that's the most common installation. The first thing you would want to do, though, is actually install the TLM server. So what you would want to do is deselect the client runtime and select the TLM server to be installed. And this will put the TLM server onto whichever computer you're running the installation. And that's the thing you want to do first so that all of the clients and the administrative consoles can connect to your TLM server. If you want to install just the administrative console, you can deselect both the client runtime and the TLM server, and this will allow you to install just the administrative console without having to worry about the TLM client making you start sessions. This is useful if you're installing it on your own laptop or desktop or an administrative or staff computer where you want them to be able to manage TLM, but you don't want them to have to actually start sessions to use the computer. You can also do a complete install where the TLM server is installed on a machine where the client runtime is also located. This is useful if you have perhaps a small library where there's only a handful of machines and you don't have a machine to dedicate to be the TLM server. You can install everything on one of the PCs so that it acts as the TLM server. The only thing to be aware of in this scenario is that the other computers won't be able to start sessions unless that computer is up and running, so you always want to make sure that that machine is started first in the morning. Okay, we're going to switch over and actually look at the TLM administrative console. And this is where I would actually configure TLM and manage the sessions, view session history, and things like that. So if we start off and we look at the schedule entries, we start off with just a default schedule entry that applies to any day on all computers and has a session length of 30 minutes. If I want to edit that, I can just double-click on it, and that will bring up the Edit Schedule Entry window. And you can see at the top the options for when and where the schedule entry applies are grayed out because this is the default schedule entry that applies all the time. The way TLM works is that if you want to override the default schedule entry, you can create one that's more specific that applies to maybe a particular pool or a particular computer and maybe applies at specific times. The middle section is where I have my parameters for the TLM session, so it's checked to be available. In this case, the session length is 30 minutes. I could change this to be 60 if I'd like. And this option, the end session, even if other pool computers are available, is the option that determines whether I allow extra time or not. When this is unchecked, then the session will be able to continue as long as other computers are available in the pool. If I check this, then I'll be forcing everyone to log off after 60 minutes, regardless of whether there are other computers available in the pool. I have the usage policy in the middle, and there's an import usage policy button to the lower right where I can choose to import an RTF file, and I can make that in Word and save it as an RTF file, and TLM will allow you to import that in. The option below is the minimum time to wait between sessions. Again, if you're using ticketless access, you may want to put in 30 seconds so that when a session ends, TLM is at the available screen for 30 seconds, and the user can't just click the I agree button again to start a new session, just as a convenience so that other people could see that the computer is available. And then finally, we have the idle session properties where I can choose to monitor the idle time and say maybe after 10 minutes of idle activity, I want the TLM session to end and go back to the available screen. So what that ends up looking like, I'm going to switch over. I have a virtual machine running, and this virtual machine has TLM installed on it, and it's connected to the same TLM server as my administrative console. And so this is my available screen. I'm just going to go ahead and enter a PIN. And press the I agree button. And I've configured TLM to automatically log in the computer, so as soon as I put in my valid PIN and press the I agree button, I'm taken to my desktop, and you can see I have the clock running in the upper portion of the screen. So as a user, I can do whatever I want. If I want to drag this around, I can, but any program that I start will be underneath the clock, so the clock is always visible. At this point, again, I just use the computer like I normally would. If I were to go and log off of the computer, it'll automatically end the TLM session, and it'll go back to the available screen. I can also click the X, and it will ask me if I want to end my session. If I say yes, it will go ahead and log me off and take me back to the available screen where I can start another session. And that's one of the nice things with TLM is that it actually completely logs the user off, and then when you put in your PIN, the next user puts in the PIN, they would get logged in. And if you have different users logging in with different passwords, you don't have to use the auto login, and that would just take it to the login screen where users can log in, and you don't have to worry about information being shared between accounts. So if I switch back to the administrative console, I can create a new schedule entry here by right-clicking and doing Create. And I can say that this maybe applies to a specific computer, or I could say that it applies to the default pool, which in this case I only have the one pool so far. I'm going to leave it at all, but I'm going to say that this one applies from 8 to 4:30, and it only applies Monday through Friday. So this schedule entry is only valid for the weekdays and from 8 to 4:30. And so I can just set up to be 60 minutes long and press OK. And so now what this configuration allows me to do is have hour sessions between 8 and 4:30 Monday through Friday, and any other time it will be 30-minute sessions. So on the weekends and after 4:30 it would be 30-minute sessions. And so you can do whatever you would like with the schedule entries and create as many schedule entries as you want to suit whatever needs you might have. A common thing to do would be to create a computer pool. So if we click on the Computer Pools tab, I can add a children's computer. And I could also create an adult computers. And what this allows me to do is go back to my schedule entries, and now I can create a new schedule entry, and instead of it applying to all computers, I can have it apply just to the adult computers or maybe just to the children's computers. And I could have a different usage policy, different session length. Maybe on the children's computers it should only be 20 minutes long. And press OK. And so now I have a new schedule entry that only applies on the children's computers. The other place where the pools are used is with the reservations. So if I click on the Reservations tab and I want to generate some pins that are used to log into the computer, I can right-click and do an add. And this will bring up a wizard, and I can specify the children's computers, and I could put an optional description in and say how many tickets I want to generate. In this case, I'll do 10. I click Next, and I don't have a printer set up, but I'll do the print preview so you can see what that looks like. And basically the tickets are set up to print 8 on a page, and you can see the 6-digit pin is there, kind of in the biggest font, so it's pretty easy to gather. If you don't want to print them out and have just 8 on a page, you can deselect the Print Pins Now option and hit Finish. And then there's the ability to sort by the name, and you can select any range of pins you want, right-click, and you can export them, and this will export to just a generic comma delimited file, and you could print them out with Excel so that maybe it's easier to use or not have as many on a piece of paper. So the last thing as far as configuration goes is looking at the computer. And if we look at the computer list, it will show us the list of all the computers. Now in this case I just have my one webinar PC set up in here. And what I can do is look at the different properties of the computer. The one thing I can do is change the pool just by clicking in the pool column. So if I want this computer to be in the adult computer pool, I just choose that. It also shows me what state it's in and how long it's been in that state. So this computer has been available for 3.5 minutes. It also shows me whether or not auto logon has been enabled and whether the access type is to use PIN, or if I click in this column I can choose ticket list as well. Another nice thing is that I can view the screenshots by clicking on the camera icon. So I'm going to go back and just start a session. And so I've started a session on my test machine, and I've opened up Internet Explorer, and so now if I click on the camera icon, it goes and grabs a screenshot and shows me what's on the computer. And the page hadn't loaded yet, so I can right-click and choose Refresh, and now it shows me what the user is seeing on there. I have the option to also save this capture, so I can save it as an image if I needed to use it as evidence or proof of what the user was doing. And I also have the ability to send a message, and this is a handy thing if someone is violating the usage policy. I can click on the send message, and this will open the send message window. And I have a couple of different options that I can do when I send a message. I can either display the message until the user responds to it, or I can have it automatically time out. Having it automatically time out is useful if you're sending a message to all of the computers, like maybe some kind of a warning that the library is going to close, or maybe there's severe weather coming or something like that. You can send it to all the computers at once and have it be displayed for maybe 15 seconds and then automatically go away. In this case, I'm just going to have it be displayed until the user responds, and I'm just going to put in a bye message. And then at the bottom of the screen, I have the option to either not change the user session or begin closing it, which puts it into that 3-minute shutdown window where they would have time to save their work. Or I could also terminate the session immediately if they're doing something that's very severe. In this case, I'm going to say that it should begin closing the user session, and I'm going to press OK. And if I switch over to my virtual machine, you can see the window is displayed with the message that I typed in and the I agree button. And so as soon as I press the I agree button, if you watch the clock, I've now been put into my 3-minute countdown window, and I receive a warning saying that my time is about to expire. And the clock will keep counting down until it gets to 1 minute, and then I'll receive another message, and then the machine will automatically log out. If we go back to the administrative console, we can refresh the screen and see that it's updated with the amount of time. Also, if I go back to my computer list and I refresh my computer list, you can see that it shows me that that machine is closing and that there's 2 minutes and 58 seconds left. That was the last time that it updated. It'll update periodically and let you know how much time is left in the session. So we've taken a look at how you kind of configure some of the TLM properties and set up pools and assign a computer to a pool. We'll take a look at the reports. The reports are useful. It allows you to see different session histories. So this is individual session history for what would be all of the computers on the network. In this case, again, I only have just the one machine set up, but it shows me each individual session, when the session took place, how much of the time was used, and I have a bar graph at the end of the report that shows me the amount of time the session was set up for in gray, and the blue area is how much of the allotted time was actually used by the user. It also shows me why the session ended. In this minutes it timed out, and the second two, the user actually ended the session early. And I can use the options on the left to filter the reports out and see for different computers or different pools or different reasons why it was closed if I'm looking for specific things. I can also use the usage report button to see summary data. And what this does is kind of aggregates together all of the data from all the TLM sessions and gives me a handy report that shows me by day how many sessions were used that day, the total amount of time, how much time was not used, and what the average time was for a user on that session. And so again, I can use this maybe to adjust the amount of sessions, or maybe make the case that I need to have more computers, or that we have plenty of computers already and that there aren't really people waiting to use the computers. And so I'm able to print those out as well and have those and use them accordingly. Excellent. The last thing we'll take a look at is the ability to delegate responsibility inside of TLM. The Manage Users will bring up the TLM5 User Manager, and this is where I can delegate authority to maybe print tickets or start a session for a user, or do things that I don't want to have to do on a daily basis, but I don't want maybe my staff to change the length of time that people get to use the computer. That's something that they shouldn't be able to do. And so just as an example, I've set up a staff user, and in the left side of the right panel, you have all the different things you can configure, and in the right column you have what access they have. And if you want to change the access, you just click in the column and it gives you a combo box, and you can select what you want the users to have. So if you want to set up view-only access for schedule entries, that means that the staff user won't be able to change the schedule entry. They'll just be able to view it and see it. And the same with the computer list. And so there's a lot of different things you can configure in here, whether or not they're able to view reports. A nice thing is if you want to deny users the ability to see the screenshots, so if it's a privacy concern, you can actually deny the ability to see screenshots or send messages or modify the user's session. You can also control whether or not they can see the session reports or print them, or whether or not they can configure automatic logon. So you have a lot of ability to configure things for staff to do that you don't have to worry about the staff users changing all of the parameters of TLM and then having to go back and recreate that. Okay, so that was a kind of quick run through of the administrative console. I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint slides. Again, that's a kind of a quick overview of TLM. If you have more questions, you can type it into the chat software or the chat window on the webinar software, or you can email me or contact us later if you think of something after the webinar or have questions. Like I said earlier, we do have a free 30-day demo that's available on our website that you can download and try it out, and technical support is available at no charge while you're demoing or after you purchase the software, so feel free to contact us with any questions you might have. If you'd like price or quote, you can contact sales at Fortress Grand or call our toll-free number, and someone can assist you with that. There's a question about how the computers are entered into TLM, and I apologize that that wasn't clear. During the installation, there's a window that asks for the name of your TLM server. So if you maybe install your TLM server on PC1, when you're installing the TLM client or the administrative console, it will ask you where your TLM server is or what the name of your TLM server is. And so at that point, you would just put in the name or IP address of that server, and then it will be connected to that TLM server that you installed as the first step. And again, when you install TLM, the first thing you want to do is have that TLM server installed so that when you install your clients or your administrative console, they can connect to that TLM server during the installation, and then it's all hooked up. There's a question about whether the webinar is recorded, and this one is actually being recorded, and I'm hoping to have it posted on our website shortly, so it will be available and you can view it offline as well. Okay, I think that answers all the questions for today, so I appreciate your time and hope you have a great afternoon. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to contact us. Thank you.